My wife started acting strange after her sister moved in with us. I thought it was just stress until I overheard a conversation I wasn't supposed to hear. What started as family support turned into the biggest betrayal of my life, and I still don't know who to trust. Story begins. Okay, Reddit. Buckle up. I never thought I'd be that guy writing a post like this, but here we are. I, 32M, have been married to my wife, Kayla, 29F, for 5 years. Our relationship was always solid. Normal ups and downs, but nothing crazy. We communicated well, supported each other, and had the kind of quiet, stable marriage people envy. That is, until her younger sister, Lacey, 25F, moved in. Lacey had just gone through a rough breakup and was struggling financially. She was living paycheck to paycheck and had no stable housing. Kayla asked me if Lacey could crash with us for a few weeks until she got back on her feet. I wasn't thrilled about it, but I agreed. I've always tried to support Kayla's family, and I figured helping her sister through a tough time was the right thing to do. Week 1 was 10 was fine. Lacey was polite, stayed in the guest room, even offered to cook dinner a few times. Week 2, a little less fine. She started walking around in short shorts and tight tops, even though we never set a strict dress code. It felt off. Kayla didn't seem to notice or care. I brushed it off. Maybe I was reading too much into it. But then came week 3. I came home from work one day and heard laughter in the kitchen. I walk in, and Lacey is sitting on the counter, sipping wine with Kayla. They both stop laughing when I enter. I ask what's up, and they both just say, nothing, just girl talk. Felt weird. But again, I let it go. That night, I noticed Kayla was distant. Not angry, not upset, just distracted. This started happening more often. She'd stay up late talking to Lacey, and I'd go to bed alone. They'd go out to brunch without inviting me. Little things. One night, I was walking past the guest room around midnight. The door was slightly open. I wasn't trying to snoop, but I heard Lacey say, he'd believe anything you tell him. Then Kayla replied, laughing, that's the problem. He trusts me too much. I froze. I didn't know what they were talking about. Was it about me? Was it about someone else? It felt like I was intruding on something I wasn't meant to hear. I didn't confront Kayla right away. I wanted to be sure I wasn't spiraling over nothing, so I started paying attention. Over the next week, I noticed a few odd things. Kayla changed her phone password. She took calls on the balcony. Lacey got a new phone but said she couldn't afford rent. I checked our joint bank account and noticed $800 missing. When I asked Kayla, she said she'd used it for groceries and stuff for the house. But I do the grocery shopping. So yeah, red flags were waving all over the place. I finally decided to install a small audio recorder in the living room. Not proud of it, but I needed clarity. I left it there for 2 days. When I listened back, most of it was normal, TV noise, footsteps, casual chatting. Then came day 3. I caught a conversation between Kayla and Lacey that made my blood run cold. Lacey said, so when are you going to tell him? You've already moved the money. Kayla replied, I'm waiting until after the lease is renewed. Once it's locked in, I'll tell him I need space. That way he has to cover the rent. You're cold. I love it. It's not like I'm cheating. I just need out. And if I do it right, I get the house and some savings. I didn't sleep that night. I was shaking with a mix of anger, confusion, and heartbreak. I didn't want to believe what I'd heard. This wasn't the woman I married. This wasn't my Kayla, but the facts were right there. She was planning to leave me. She was using me. And worse, she was strategizing it with her sister. I didn't confront her right away. I needed to think. I needed a plan. So the next day, I called a lawyer, asked about lease agreements, bank accounts, what she was entitled to if we split. Turns out, since everything was under my name, lease, car, most of our joint assets, I had more control than I thought. The lawyer advised me not to tip her off just yet. If I wanted a clean exit, I had to be quiet, strategic. So I started moving my direct deposit to a new bank, closed the joint savings account, changed the locks on my office. Then I waited. About a week later, I came home early. I walked in and found Kayla and Lacey sitting at the table, whispering. They stopped when they saw me. I smiled, sat down, told Kayla, we need to talk. I laid everything out, calmly. I told her what I heard. I told her I knew about the missing money. I told her I had spoken to a lawyer. She didn't deny it. She just sat there, silent. Lacey, of course, started yelling, called me controlling. called me manipulative, said I was the toxic one. I looked at Kayla. Is this how you want this to go down? And finally, Kayla spoke. She said, I didn't know how to leave. I thought if I planned it this way, it would hurt less. And for both of us. I almost laughed. Hurt less? She and Lacey moved out that weekend. That was 2 months ago. I've been in therapy. I've started working out again. I reconnected with a few old friends who I drifted from during my marriage. It still hurts. Don't get me wrong, 5 years is a long time, but I'm glad I found out before it got worse. Before I was locked into a lease, or worse, had kids with someone who viewed love like a chess match. Part of me still doesn't understand how someone can plan that kind of betrayal, but I've stopped trying to figure it out. Now I just focus on what I can control. About 2 weeks after Kayla and Lacey moved out, I got an email from Kayla. Subject line, closure? I stared at it for a full 5 minutes before opening it. She wrote that she wanted to meet just to talk, said she owed me an explanation, that she was sorry for how things ended, that it wasn't what she wanted, but what she felt forced to do. I didn't reply. Honestly, I wanted to. I wanted to ask her why. I wanted to hear it from her mouth. But I knew what that would do to me. I'd start doubting everything all over again. Instead, I forwarded the email to my therapist and asked if I should respond. His advice, closure comes from understanding, not interaction. So I let the email sit. A week later, I heard from a mutual friend. Apparently, Kayla and Lacey were no longer speaking. Something about a fight over money and crossed boundaries. That made my stomach drop. What could they possibly fight about now? So I did what any rational man trying not to spiral would do. I opened a new Reddit account and searched both their usernames. Guess what I found? Lacey had been active in a few relationship subreddits under a throwaway. The timestamps and language made it obvious it was her. In one thread, she wrote, my sister and I got really close while she was going through a rough marriage. I moved in to help, but I think I crossed a line. I developed feelings I wasn't expecting. We didn't do anything, but now she's acting like I ruined her life. Another post said, I thought she was into the late night talks, the physical closeness, but then she accused me of manipulating her and told me to leave. That's when it all clicked. The whispering, the emotional distance, the way Kayla defended Lacey no matter what. There was something else going on, something Kayla didn't want to admit. Maybe she hadn't just been planning to leave me. Maybe she had been confused about who she had feelings for. I don't think they had a physical relationship. Not from what I saw, but emotionally, yeah, that line was crossed. And now it made sense why they weren't speaking. Kayla had tried to play both sides, pretend she was still the loving wife while building this emotionally intense dynamic with her sister. When the walls came down, they both got crushed. I didn't tell anyone about what I found on Reddit, not even my therapist. I didn't want to turn it into gossip. I just needed to understand the full picture for my sanity. It didn't make the betrayal hurt less, but it made it feel less about me. That's what stuck with me the most. It wasn't that I wasn't good enough. It was that Kayla didn't know who she was. She projected that confusion into our marriage, and it blew everything up. Now, 3 months later, I've started dating again. Nothing serious, just coffee dates and conversations. But I'm different now. I ask deeper questions. I look for emotional honesty. I'm not bitter, but I am cautious. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't overheard that conversation. If I'd renewed the lease, if I'd kept the joint savings, how long would she have strung me along before finally cutting the cord? It's a terrifying thought. But you know what? I'm grateful I found out, even if it shattered everything. Because now I'm rebuilding, honestly. And that's something no one can take away. A couple of weeks ago, I bumped into Kayla's brother Josh at the grocery store. We'd always had a good relationship. He was the kind of guy who didn't talk much, but was solid when you needed him. He looked at me for a second before saying, "Hey, man, I heard what happened. I'm sorry." I wasn't sure what he'd been told, so I just nodded and said, "Thanks." But then he lowered his voice. I warned her, told her she was acting weird the last few months, like she was trying to convince herself she was happy. That hit hard. I asked, "You think she regrets it?" Josh shrugged. "Honestly, yeah. But I don't think she knows how to deal with it." Then, almost casually, he said something I haven't stopped thinking about. She always thought she could fix stuff by escaping it, like running made problems disappear. It was such a simple sentence, but it explained so much. That's what our marriage had become for her, something she didn't want to confront head on, something easier to escape from than fix. A week after that, I got a letter in the mail, an actual handwritten letter from Kayla. I opened it, unsure whether I'd find an apology or some twisted version of closure. Instead, it was a long, winding mess of thoughts. She wrote about how she never meant to hurt me, that she was confused, and that she didn't even recognize herself in the last few months of our marriage. She didn't say she wanted to come back. She didn't ask for forgiveness. But she did say this: sometimes, when I close my eyes, I see the version of us that still laughs over takeout and sings in the car. I don't know when I lost that, but I think I miss it more than I can explain. And at the bottom, in smaller handwriting, I hope one day we can talk again, not as husband and wife, just as people who once knew each other well. I haven't written back. I'm not angry. Not anymore. But I also don't think she understands the full weight of what she did, of what she allowed to happen. The silence, the gaslighting, the slow erosion of our connection, and how I had to piece myself back together with no explanation. So I folded the letter, tucked it away in a drawer, and kept going. Last night, I had a dream. We were in our old apartment. Kayla was cooking pasta and humming, and I was sitting at the table reading something. It felt so normal, so boring in the best way. But then I turned to her and asked, "Why didn't you just tell me?" And she looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "Because I didn't want you to stop loving me before I was ready to stop loving you." I woke up and just laid there, staring at the ceiling. It wasn't real, but it felt honest. Like maybe that's the closest I'll ever get to understanding her. It's been 6 months since I first shared everything. I wasn't planning on updating. Honestly, I thought I'd moved on. But a few things happened recently that made me realize the story didn't really end the way I thought it did. First, I ran into Kayla again, not a planned meeting, just one of those awkward random encounters. I was grabbing coffee with someone I've been seeing casually, and Kayla walked in. She froze when she saw me. I gave a small nod. She gave one back. That was it. But later that night, she texted me, "You looked happy. I'm glad." That message hit harder than I expected. Not because I missed her, but because I think she finally understood. She never followed up. I didn't reply either. There was nothing left to say. The second thing, I actually heard from Lacey. She DM'd me on Instagram, of all places. Just a short message. "I'm sorry for everything. I never meant to destroy anything. I wasn't okay back then." I didn't block her. I didn't argue. I just replied, "I hope you find peace. For real." And maybe that's the biggest change in me. I'm no longer holding on to what happened. For a long time, I thought closure meant getting answers. Now I realize it's just accepting that some people won't give you the truth because they're still lying to themselves. I've since moved to a new place. It's smaller, but it's mine. No shared closets, no memories in the walls, just peace and a lot of silence I'm slowly learning to enjoy. To everyone who read my post, commented, DM'd, or even just silently related, thank you. You helped me feel less crazy during one of the worst moments of my life. And if you're going through something like this now, all I can say is don't wait for someone to come back and fix what they broke. Fix yourself, piece by piece. You'll be stronger than you ever thought you could be.